at the time that I made the record, I had just moved to London before I really, in earnest, started to make Statues, the record for Moloko, and then I obviously was finished that, and I started to promote it, and I started to tour it. And when I came back to London, in the times in between the tour, I mean, this is partly the reason why I approached Matthew in the first place. I had nothing to do. I hadn't made friends. I hadn't made a life in London because I had just worked the whole time that I was there. So I was constantly moving about, constantly leaving London. So when I was back there, I was quite lonely. You know, when I got dropped back there after a tour, what have you, I would be quite isolated, I think. So I always worked on the lyrics at home for this record on the little 4-track in my house, on a cassette 4-track, and that was always there. So that was really became the place that I could go and have a chat, you know, or release what I felt. So I think that was part of the reason why the lyrics have become a bit more personal and more emotional in that sense. And yeah, so like I said, it was always there for me. The little 4-track coming from a bad party, you know, put some vocals down. Or one day I was there on Valentine's Day on my own, and there was like a couple of people I could have maybe sent Valentine's cards to or texts or what have you, and I was stopping myself. And in the end, I just wrote a song about it, Dear Diary, you know. So I'm really pleased that I did, because I could have made a fool of myself sending the cards or the texts or what have you, or ringing them. And now I have a song that I can keep, you know, it's mine. There wasn't really any other title for the record. I mean, when I started to think about the title, I thought it would be wise to have a very simple, snappy title for debut solo record, not to confuse people, not to add any more confusion than there already is about, you know, who I am and what have you. So I thought Róisín Murphy, you know, that's often the case with a debut record. Boring, you know. Björk called her debut record debut, you know, so it's like. So Ruby Blue's kind of a pseudonym in my mind for me, you know, especially because I'd gone red and with the red hair, and Ruby being the sort of fiery side of me, and the blue being the melancholic, the inevitable melancholic side of that, sort of tempestuousness. So hopefully that somehow expresses what I do lyrically as well, which is always about two sides, always about trying to explain some kind of complexity, you know. Simon Henwood is somebody who does do paintings of people that he knows, you know, his acquaintances, his friends, and I met him in a pub last summer, and through friends, and everybody went to his flat, his studio rather, and had a party afterwards. And I mean, Simon and I just spent the whole evening looking at his paintings and talking about his work, and there was an affinity there, and he asked me to pose for him the next week to do a painting, and it kind of, as I said, you know, it's snowballed into 3 paintings, which then gave me the idea for the 3 EPs, which then kind of gave, you know, snowballed into doing the whole album artwork and the whole campaign. If We're in Love was not my choice for the first single, it was the record company's choice for the first single. I would have chosen something else, but it is a lovely track, and it's perhaps not the most radical thing on the record. I think what perhaps is radical about it is how beautiful it is, and you don't really hear lots of beauty on the radio these days. You know, it's quite a lot of stylizing goes on in pop music at the moment. So it's a very sincere and beautiful little song, you know, but it's quite fragile. So in a way I would have maybe gone myself personally for a more bombastic entrance. So yeah, it's lovely, and the video was also made by Simon Henwood, the painter who did the artwork.
Yeah, it looks good.
The video is lovely. The video is so, again, it's sort of shockingly beautiful. If We're in Love was the first song that we wrote together, Matthew and I, and in some ways I think it's the most like a Moloko song on the record. Obviously, because it was the first one I wrote, and I'd just been touring with Moloko, and it took my time to kind of really start to experiment with new kind of ways of writing songs and stuff. It's about really what it's about. You can tell what it's about. It's about wanting to get some in it, and you know, it's about being isolated and physically and emotionally. And I think it's something a lot of women can relate to. You know, this idea of, you know, if we're in love, we should make love. Yeah, there's a funny side to it, but there's a very emotional side to it as well. First of all, I mean, playing live is the best bit, is the bit that you do it all for, really, I think. It's the most rewarding part of the process. But I think, yeah, it's not easy transferring studio music into live music, but it's what I've always done. So every time I do a record, it gets a little bit easier than the last. It is the most fun, but it's a really scary going out there with brand new material, a brand new band, you know, and no hits yet, you know, nobody knows the music that well. So you really have to, you know, prove your stuff. It's a bit like paying your dues again, you know.